should pop up here. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you people. There's about 100 people here at the center. Now we have a small group at the center. Yeah. Little background. We have a lovely group here, yes. And the center is open. I didn't really put out a lot of advertising because we don't want a lot of people showing up. But for you local people, if you want to come in next week, or even if you want to jump in your car and try to get over here now, you can. But everything is open for Wednesday nights, and then we're going to slowly see what the other teachers want to do as far as running their live classes, that type of thing. So there's a lot of Zooming. Everybody is Zooming a lot. You can find out information on meditationlearningcenter.com. I just got word tonight that Paul Barrett is going to be Zooming on Thursday nights starting next week. He's going to Zoom at the temple, I think, with Bhante Bodhi. I wanted to talk about an interesting topic. There's some of you might have heard me talk about Peter Fenner, who is a non-dual teacher. He's got some very nice material out there, but he's like a Buddhist non-dual teacher from Australia, and he recently had a back surgery, and it was a really tricky 5-hour fusion, like a vertebrae fusion, or what did he call it? Actually, the operation took 5 hours. It was a lumbar fusion operation. And so they did the surgery, it took 5 hours, and he had a pretty interesting experience that kind of reminded me of a conversation that Terry and I were having I can't remember if it was this morning. It was this morning, actually, about death and what happens in life, what happens if you believe in past lives and future lives, what goes from one life to another. And he was coming out of his anesthesia, and he had a really profound experience, and it's something that's going to change his teaching, the way it sounds. And he sent this email out, and I received it right before we left to come here tonight. I was reading it, and I thought, oh, this is pretty neat. That it was an experience that he had in regards to dying. He felt that he had died, and was kind of in the Bardo state already. Bardo is that period between life and death. Bardo is about, usually they say it's about a 40-day period where you are going, where the consciousness and the karma and everything that would go from one life to another, nothing visual or nothing that you can call a self or anything like that is, I see it as really kind of circulating and moving around and looking for its next host in a way. Kind of like a virus almost, but it's like the seed of consciousness, if you will, is looking for its next host, whether it's a man or a woman or animals or whatever it is, and then that consciousness would go into the womb of the female, and then the result is this stuff, for the next life. He doesn't get into it, he doesn't talk about all that in detail here, but he does talk about his experience, and I wanted to read this a little bit, so if you'll bear with me. And it has to do with our meditation, the invitation that I want to put out for our meditation, which is to really let go and really try to experience what it would be like to live, or not live, but to be in existence without any of our past, without any of our, without our name, without any of this stuff that we're familiar with now. How would it feel? What would it be like? Because that is what will happen when we die. And so I'll read this and see, try to keep that in mind. See, my Clark Kent glasses make me a super reader. We'll see. He goes on to say that the operation took a lot out of him, and it's been very demanding physically and emotionally. He's still in slow recovery. The last few days, he's begun to feel normal this week. He started walking a few kilometers every day with Marie, his wife, at his side, making sure she was making sure that he didn't trip or stumble. He said, it feels incredible to have more energy moving through my muscles and limbs than in a long time. And this surgery was done. It was done quite a while ago, and he's just starting to recover now. It was like a surgery on top of a surgery. And he said as he came out of the anesthetic, he had an experience that he'd like to share. And this is the experience as he wrote about it. He was in extreme pain and thought I was in a bardo death. I felt as though I may never return to this life. This experience continues to touch me even each day with its great blessing and teaching. It has brought home to me the essence and truth of so many Buddhist teachings. The clearest teaching is that of death and impermanence. When I was inside this experience of being touched by death, I felt that my life, as I knew it, could be leaving me immediately, irrevocably, and unequivocally. This was it. Everything that made up me, whatever I may have accomplished, the huge story I've created about myself, my efforts, my precious wife, and my days and years lost in futilities were going to disappear. There was no way to turn back, no way to turn off the process I might be in. No putting this on hold or slowing things down while I found a useful resource. Now looking back, I feel blessed that I am alive. I have the opportunity to reflect on what really counts at the time of death. This is an incredibly precious opportunity. Which of our lives' actions supports us when everything we are attached to is being taken away from us? What actions from amongst the 500,000 or more hours of our lifespan really give us something of value, something we can use and benefit from at the moments of our death? Which actions waste the opportunity we have with this intelligent human mind to become someone who is capable of creating happiness and well-being for ourselves and for others? This experience has taken me deeper into the many teachings on death and impermanence. In a way, I have denied the full importance of these teachings. I've thought, oh yes, death and impermanence. That's one of the teachings I need to contemplate each day. Live this day as though it could be the last day of my life, and seconds later, I'm distracted by urgent needs and futilities of the day, living one day to the next, forgetting the universal charm or the universal dharma principle of letting go and self-interest. As the Buddha taught, our human life is unimaginably precious. It offers us a vehicle, a vessel through which we can develop the wisdom that liberates us from suffering. It is also unique in the way it gives us the opportunity to drop the obsession that we have with our own existence and start living for others. We waste our lives thinking and acting like we are the center of the universe. When we die, the central meaning of our life disappears forever. There will be no one here anymore to give our existence the relevance and significance that we attribute it to. Our existence disappears forever. It doesn't matter if we believe in rebirth or not. The sense of me, the memories we cherish, the idea we carry about ourselves, and our accomplishments disappear completely. If these remain, it means we are still alive. So what does bring meaning to our life in a way that's naturally present when we die? I'll read that again. So what does bring meaning to our life in a way that's naturally present when we die? Anything to do with our ego, or in Buddhism that's called the self-cherishing mind or selflessness, will only cause pain as we are forced to abandon every sense of personal relevance and significance. Every thought and memory that could please us is taken away, never to be recovered. Never again will we be able to think about and feel our loved ones, our children, our friends, our appearance, our possessions, our plans for the future. And to deny this is to deny death. We need to realize this. Death takes everything from us. There's no such thing as being half dead, still carrying half a life along with us. We can lose some of our capabilities, but this isn't death. This is why death is so confronting. At the end of death, there's nothing to hang on to. What doesn't disappear at the time of death is any selfless love and service that has moved through us. The giving and love that's free of egocentric impulse and which can't be grasped by our mind. When we give without any notion of giving, a virtuous cycle is kept in motion. Selfless giving persists beyond our personal existence. It flows from one person to another, from one generation to the next. Without thinking about it, we support humanity in our continued discovery of the reality of interdependence and expand our foundations for limitless joy and fulfillment. He goes on to say that Marie and I send you our great love in these demanding times of uncertainty. The wisdom mind of pure awareness is always here, closer than our dearest friend. Even when we are being shaken about by the invisible forces of nature, we hope that you and your loved ones are forever protected by pure mind, stable and indestructible. Peter and Marie. So it talks a little bit about his experience coming out of off of the anesthesia, from his surgery, and experiencing a death-like situation. And I know a lot of people had these types of experiences where they felt as if they report coming back from an experience like that in a number of ways, but I think the interesting thing is what he says as far as what actually goes from one life to another, and that is that action or that karmic result of generosity, love, and helping other people. And from the Buddhist standpoint, that is the only thing that goes from one life to another is the karma, and we could even say the karmic seeds. And how that is kind of explained is that just like a seed that we have in the desert here in Arizona, when we are out in the desert, we can look and see that everything is just gray and brown and sun-baked. But then when the conditions are right, the weather conditions, we have a little bit of water, right temperature, all the conditions are right, the desert comes alive. So the seeds were always there, we just weren't able to see them. And karma is said to be that same way. When the seeds are fertile, I mean, the seeds are there, and when the conditions are right, the karma comes up. So if we can imagine what comes from this life when we die, the body dies, let's just say the body, and all the memories and everything that goes along with this, the mental aspect of who we believe we are, when all of that dies and fades away, we still have these karmic seeds. Very much like the analogy I like to use is, if I would roll a ball, we're at the center here, this is a hard concrete floor, and if I would roll a ball across the floor, just kind of gently push it, and then I would die, that ball would continue to roll. And it's like I started the action of that ball rolling, and it doesn't stop rolling because I have died. The same way with karma. If we do a loving or a very compassionate thing for someone, it's like that continues on. That person or that thing or whatever we did doesn't just stop. It goes on and on and on and on. It's like throwing a pebble into a still pond. The waves keep going, building and building, and this circular, this wave motion grows and grows and grows. Whether we are still looking at it or not, it's still happening. Even if we are going to be a part of those waves or not, it's still happening. So we don't have a choice. We could also say that the negative karma that we cause continues as well. So we must be very careful and understand, the consequences of karma. And even if we decide not to call it karma, if we wanted to call it just action, which karma is, these actions, they continue on. They go on after they are done. If we, just like sending somebody a few loving words, they remember these words, they might remember them for the rest of their life, whether we are still around or not. And that is basically how karma works. We could speak about karma, for hours. And actually, I just remember there's another video about karma, and I think it actually says, I think it's just called Karma. It was done a while back, so maybe you want to go back into the YouTube videos and check that out as well. It might be a little bit more in depth about karma and what it is. So if that one's called Karma, I don't know what I will call this one. Maybe call it More Karma. So if you have any questions about any of this, please let me know. But we will do our meditation now. And again, I just like to have people keep that in mind. What would it feel like if we didn't have to defend any of this mind or body? What would it feel like if we didn't have our story? This huge, huge story that we've created and built up and try to preserve, all of, every day of our life. This is me, and this is my stuff, and this is my story. What happens if we don't have to hang on to that anymore? What if there's no more attachment to me, my, or the story of any of this? And basically that's what Peter Fenner is saying that he experienced in his experience of dying. So please make yourself comfortable. Looks like this will be about a 35-minute meditation, and I will I'll guide us through a good 10 minutes or so of it. Find your posture, whether you're sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor. Doesn't matter. If you're new to meditation, or if you've been meditating for years and years, it doesn't matter. Obviously, we're doing a practice, and a practice is a conditioning of the mind and the body. We practice meditation like we practice anything else. And if we're looking for a goal or a purpose behind our meditation, it is to find clarity of mind, maybe concentration, awareness, and primarily that comes from being able to rest in the present moment. So we're trying to refrain from the mind visiting the past or the future, because the past and the future are our story, the story of me, the story of mine, the story of my. And so anytime that we can become present and rest in this present moment, we come very, very close to being able to relinquish that story. And this is what we're looking for. We can do it through concentration, which we talked about the last couple of weeks, and with the jhana, deeper concentration practice. And we can also do it in vipassana, which most of us are probably practicing. And it's simply being able to accept everything as it is in the moment, asking nothing to change, nothing to be different, and to be able to let go of any kind of attachments that we have for things to be different. So these can be physical and mental attachments. So letting go is very, very important. And we are relinquishing the past and the future and coming into this present moment. And we do that by picking up a meditation object, which in our case would probably be the breath. And we want to be careful not to call this my breath or a part of me that is doing something. But just simply feel as if breathing is happening. The noticing of the breath is happening with nobody behind it. No one is breathing and no one is even meditating. It's just happening on its own. And if we can do that, then the practice is going in the right direction for us. We want to become as selfless as we possibly can. And so we can notice if the mind does go into the past, it feels as if it's our past. We're involved. So we let that go. Anytime we go into the future, of course it's our future and the way we want things to be, or the way that we see how things could be. And we should let that go. And just be able to rest in the stillness, actually blissfulness of the present moment. Using the breath as a tool, feeling the movement of the air perhaps. And just knowing that all of this is happening. Nothing is being forced, or nothing is having to change or be different than it is. If you notice the mind wandering off, just notice with a little bit of awareness what part of the story it wandered off to, and simply drop it, gently drop it, and come back to the breath, which means you're coming back to the present moment. If you notice something within the body, just notice it as something that's happening. There's an experience. Could be discomfort or pleasure or an ache in the body or something, but don't regard it as being your body or your problem or your situation. It's just something that's happening. And there's noticing happening, experiencing happening. But the involvement doesn't have to be there. Just come back to the breath, rest in the present moment. Stillness. Just a couple of minutes left, and try to rest in the presence of the stillness of the moment. If you'd like to, you can bring the palms together in front of your heart center. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
I was wondering where the bell was.
It's hiding.
You mixed it up on me.
Yeah, change things around. Well, we, for a lot of people that probably seemed like any other meditation and stuff, but the invitation was to try to relinquish the story. And that's something that usually we try to do in meditation anyway, try to rest in the present moment. And anytime the story comes up, the selfing comes up, and it expands. If we can imagine the self expanding and shrinking, that expansion would be when we call it or feel as if the ego is being hurt or something along those lines. Something has come up for us, then somebody said something to us, or that we felt that something isn't going right for us, or anything along those lines, where the ego feels hurt, or even that we just feel as if there's something that we should be doing in the moment. That's a moment of selfing, and the selfing is constantly happening again and again and again. And when that stops, there's blissfulness, there's freedom, there's peacefulness in that moment. It's hard to sustain it. We have a better chance of sustaining it in the practice of meditation. And you get kind of sensitive to it, and you get a taste for it. But and it's very hard because we're conditioned. All of our life we've been trying to protect this, try to make this more comfortable, and try to make it better. All these different things that we're working with the mind and body. So it's just something that the more we are aware of it, the more we practice, the better the better we can be at it, and the more peacefulness that happens. We want peacefulness in everyday living, from a practical standpoint. And one way to find that peacefulness and to experience that peacefulness is just rest in that presence. Peacefulness in everyday living, to be very, very practical. And we, nothing spiritual necessarily, or if somebody said, forget the self and forget the ego and all that, and says, fine, but it's just not that easy all the time, to be able to do that. So when we look at it from a non-spiritual standpoint, or a non-Buddhist standpoint, or whatever we want to call it, if we are able to say that we have peacefulness in everyday life, that's what we all want, whether we are religious or whatever it is. And the way to find that peacefulness and to have that sustained is to just have a practice where we can find the stillness, whether we use the breath or whatever it is. And that is the meditation practice. We sometimes we look at it as a practice of relinquishing the ego or relinquishing the self. Sometimes we look at it as something that we are just working at, letting go of anything, letting go of our attachments. And if we look at it from a standpoint of letting go of my attachments, there's a self right there. Admitting that there is a self that has these attachments. So if we're practicing from a standpoint of no ego or no self, it's just kind of an awareness beyond that. And so I got to thank Peter Fenner for that little message and that little email that he sent to not only me, but I'm sure he sent it out to thousands of people. Peter Fenner is an Australian teacher that he teaches a lot in the United States too, but he's been having some physical ailments, and obviously his back situation. He had some a serious knee problem before that. So he's working on some karma himself. We all are. We're all working on it. These lessons in life.
So in regards to karma, you spoke about this consciousness and dying and that ball rolling and the karma continuing on. So if you look back into the life as it stands right now, and the person who has come to the realization in their lives that some things that were done based on self and ego and all that, and they're in for a course correction. So when I walked into meditation for the first time way back, and I met my first teacher, I was in for a serious course correction because my life was going into some pretty dark alleys.
Mm-hmm.
And the karma that I was putting out also wasn't too helpful either to others. But my understanding of renunciation, when and I've done this on various retreats, and I'm going in and renunciating these actions of which I have done, and I'm there to let go, first of all, all those thoughts and stories, so that I can get to a place of loving compassion for others and for myself. And then I move forward from that place, and I continue on in my life, in time. Where does one carry that karma? Is it from the point of birth all the way through life to the point of death, all of which one has done? Or is it that as one is born with a certain amount of karma coming from a past life, etc., and then they go through life and then they kind of stumble and fall and they learn and they grow and they change and etc., etc. Now we're at the point of death. Is it at that point then that the karma goes into the next life, or is it bringing the whole show all together?
Mm-hmm. There's no way to prove any of this, or to.
Well, just from the perspective of the Buddha, I would, if you could answer.
From the teachings, it's like a thread, and it doesn't. there's no beginning of a life or ending of a life. There's just a change. So it would be the same with karma, where we're carrying karma from a past life, and we're placing karma into a future life as well. So there's no beginning or ending of any of it, and it's not that organized as we would like to see that. This is the karma of this life, and I'm going to take care of all the karma of this life, because the Buddha did say that karma can even skip a life. I'm not sure what sutra that was, but it was written in one of the sutras that we might not be experiencing any karma from one of our past lives in this life. It might skip this life altogether and be in next one. So we might be getting along very luckily, very easy, by not experiencing some bad karma that could have happened lifetimes ago, that hasn't ripened yet. So again, it's like those seeds. When the conditions are right, the seeds are there. It's kind of like, maybe getting ill or having some physical problems that we, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it happens, boom, there we are, experiencing this karma from something. We could spend our entire lifetimes figuring out what happened in this lifetime, or maybe, in our mind, it came from a past life, but what past life did it come from,
Yeah, I'm not so concerned in my question about that, what I carried from and what I got. Okay, so I got what I got. Okay, so now I'm going along in life, I got my karma, skipped the life, got the life, but I'm in this life. So I'm asking more of a question in terms of having a transformative experience in the thing called my karma, which I brought from my past life and currently have created in this life. So then I have this moment of clarity, so to speak, and I go, whoa, this is all wrong, I shouldn't be doing this. Now I make a course correction. Does that carry that karma forward, or am I just still dragging the whole?
Oh, no, I think from that moment, I mean, as soon as the story of Ugliamala, from the Buddhist sutras, Ugliamala was a mass murderer, and he killed hundreds of people, hundreds of them, and the Buddha accepted him as being one of his monks, and he became an arhat, and so he was fully enlightened within that lifetime by wiping out that karma. Basically, no self, no karma. So as long as there's an ego, there's some karma happening, but if we were, if we were selfless, there wouldn't be anything to kind of hold on to that karma. So even the small stuff, I think it's instantaneous. I mean, like Mr. Fenner, Dr. Fenner, Peter Fenner said that we don't have to believe in past lives or rebirth or any of that. It just
the present moment's hard enough.
But the truth is the truth, and we can't, like I said, we can't prove any of this.
Right.
But if everybody would live as if there is karma happening at the moment, it would be a pretty nice world. So I don't know. Thank you, everybody. We'll leave it at that. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, exactly.